Hello and welcome back to the Made for More podcast. I'm Ali Nitschke, and today I want to talk about something that I believe is one of the biggest leadership blind spots that's happening right now. I wrote an article about this last week, and it has well and truly been our most popular topic, most popular talking point in quite some time. And that is the idea of energy output versus actual work output. So, when we are measuring that energy obsessively, which we tend to do, the hours worked, the targets hit, the task completed, the KPIs achieved. And I think right now we're starting to see a shift away from that because it's no longer as effective as it can be. And what I'm seeing now more than I have ever seen before, actually, caveat for that, I think during the C word time, there was a lot of very exhausted leaders that were doing a lot of things and not kind of seeing any end in in the future, in the horizon, on the horizon, not in the horizon, on the horizon. But what I'm seeing now more than ever is that leaders are feeling more exhausted than they have before. They're feeling more disconnected, and they're quietly wondering why their high performers are burning out, even when the numbers are looking good. So even when the metrics are good, the people are not doing as well as they possibly could be. And for many of our leaders, not doing as well as we would like them to be doing. So today's conversation is all about a shift that I believe every organization needs to make, especially as we move deeper into modern work, that AI integration and this constant change that is happening faster than ever before. And it is not slowing down anytime soon. So, what I think we need to start measuring instead of just KPIs is actually we need to start measuring energy, not just output, because output tells us what has got done. So it's a historic measure, whereas energy tells us whether the performance is going to be sustainable. So whether that is your performance, whether that is your team's performance, energy is like the preemptive, whereas output is the post reporting. Now, I think output alone is really quite misleading. So I think what I'm starting to see, or what I wanted to share with you, is what I am seeing repeatedly in organizations is that on paper, everything is looking fine. Targets are being hit, projects are moving forward, leaders are reporting progress. Are we on our green or our orange for projects and those transformation pieces? And everyone is saying, yep, 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 go, go, go. But underneath the surface, something is feeling really off. People are tired, creativity is disappearing. Even meetings are starting to feel flat, and leaders start saying things along the lines of, we just need to push through the next quarter and then we'll be okay. Now, for years, we've heard this sort of that lead up to Christmas time where we go, oh, I just need to get through the next couple of weeks and then I can have a break. I'm recording this now in February, and I'm starting to hear it already. Now, in Australia, this is a very broad statement, but what tends to happen is most people have time off over that December, January period. If you've got children, it's 1,000 weeks of school holidays, which is so lovely. Hashtag blessed. We get to spend time with them. And really, from a corporate perspective, things don't start to happen until just after Australia Day, so the end of January. And I'm recording this in February, and I'm already starting to hear like, yeah, energy's good. We just need to get through this first quarter and then things will settle down. Or we just need to get this project set up, or we just need to do this kickoff and then things will settle down. And it's a bit of a trap to get into because things, very rarely do not settle down. They just kind of go up, or they taper out completely. But what I'm really noticing is that output can mask that exhaustion. We get into this hustle culture. We get into like, yep, 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 it's done, tick, tick, tick. And don't get me wrong, I love a good hustle. I can hustle with the best of them. I also love a to-do list, which is, hey, this is already done. And my kryptonite is currently my to-do list, which is way too long and not as productive as it could be. But when I work with, leadership teams, particularly some of those ones that were, a while ago, they were consistently exceeding those expectations. And from the outside, you would have really thought that they were a high performing organization. So, on paper, they look fantastic. They are measuring, they are kicking some serious goals. But when we took a deeper look at what was happening with the team, and I got brought in because they're like, well, we're getting there, but with the team just aren't really happy. They're not energized. We're not getting the same level of engagement. We're not getting the same level of innovation. There's just no excitement in the office. It's just very much a, yep, here's my output, here's what I've done. And when we looked more deeply at this team, it was really that the energy was declining significantly quickly. And I think at first the signs are quite subtle. So there's, perhaps there's less collaboration. There could be a few more videos off during meetings. There's less, I guess, less of that chitter chatter that we like to hear. And what we see more of is more of that reactive communication. You go into a meeting, walk out, and someone's either shot off an email or needs to go out and have a coffee break, and it's happening really quickly. We're noticing rather what I noticed was that drop in curiosity. So people just kind of took things at face value. There wasn't that dialogue, there wasn't that pushback in a good way, and nobody was really failing. But nobody was really thriving either. And I read something that really stuck on my heart the other day, and it was something along the lines of, legacy. And in 5 generations' time, no one's going to know your name and who you are. And I'm like, oh, we have this one beautiful life. We need to be thriving in it, because surviving just, seems like a wasted opportunity. In fact, just recently, my son, he's in year 4 this year, he came home and asked us to draw a family tree, and I could get to my grandparents, I think. But that was as far up the tree that I actually knew their names and who it was. Like, obviously I understand how a family tree works and kind of knew the numbers and the people, but not their names. And isn't it interesting how quickly we forget? So my tip here is, why don't we create an environment where you can be thriving every single day rather than just surviving? And I think it's a trap that many leaders fall into. They assume that if the results are still coming in, then the system is still healthy. But output, as I mentioned earlier, is a lag indicator. Energy is a leading indicator, and we want to be measuring like what's on the horizon, not what's happened in the past, because as change is happening so quickly, it's kind of outdated by the time we're measuring those outputs. So when it comes to outputs, I think really going, is this what we want to be measuring? Yes, of course, it's important. But if you are looking to really increase performance, increase engagement, dare I say, increase happiness in the workplace, and really having a look at what are some of those energy outputs, sorry, energy, no, Ali, not outputs, energy measurements that you can be putting into place to go, what is the lead indicator and how are we tracking? And I think there's a few things to consider when we're talking about energy and what it actually tells you. And when I'm saying energy, I'm not talking about, this hype or the motivation or positivity for the sake of it. Although if you do need a good pep up, I'm wildly optimistic and have energy in spades, because I really want to protect the energy, particularly the energy that I bring to organizations, whether it's through a keynote or through workshops. I come fully charged. But energy, when I'm talking about it in this sense, is really around how people show up. Do they bring that curiosity to the conversations? Are they willing to challenge the ideas respectfully? Do they still have the capacity to think strategically? And I think in a day and age where AI has become our outsourced brain, we do need to have that energy to go, hang on, let's vibe check that. Let's check that and make sure that it is accurate and appropriate. And I think one of the other things for leaders to consider is, are they just surviving the week? Are people getting to Friday night and going, thank goodness I have got a weekend, I need a break, and then spending all weekend resting and recovering, rather than going, hey, let's celebrate the end of the week, or I'm really looking forward to having a fun-filled weekend doing the stuff that I love. So I think that low energy often shows up in ways that leaders do sometimes overlook, and not intentionally. It's just a shift in what leadership is in this day and age. So quiet quitting, we know that term. It's been around for a while now. It's becoming normalized. Like, actually, it's okay. They're just quiet quitting. Like, no, No, it's not okay. Let's talk about it. What's going on? Participation drops, but nobody calls it out. If you've ever run a social club or social event in your workplace and all of a sudden people don't come, that's an energy indicator. Innovation slows because people simply don't have the cognitive bandwidth left to innovate. And part of that is, having conversations with people. Part of that is slowing down to speed up. And we really just need to be aware of that, or you need to be aware of that as a leader of going, am I getting any of that in my team and with my people? And I think for high energy, that looks really different. So you start to see discretionary effort. We see collaboration without it being forced. We might see resilience even when the pressure increases. And in today's environment where AI is accelerating and everything, energy is becoming one of the most valuable organizational assets that you have available to you, because technology can absolutely increase output, but it cannot replace human energy. So something to consider when you are leading a team is, how can you conserve, how can you maintain, how can you increase the energy of your team? And more importantly, how can leaders actually measure that energy? So one of the biggest pushbacks I hear is this, and if you've heard any of my work before, it typically comes from our task orientated people, so our eagles and our owls, and they'll say, hey, energy sounds kind of fluffy. It sounds like the fluffy stuff. And it does sound kind of fluffy. So did emotional intelligence until recently, so did resilience until recently, so did well-being until recently. And I do get it. Leaders want data, they want structure, they want something tangible that they can put their finger on or hold or touch or present and say, here's a graph that's going up in the right direction. And the good news for that is that energy can absolutely be measured. So I wanted to share just a few practical ways that I am seeing organizations doing this really well. So firstly is around pulse surveys. I think we're seeing, pulse surveys have been around for a long time, but shorter pulse surveys with questions specifically around energy. So not long, complex engagement surveys that happen once a year, but short, regular check-ins that ask questions like, how is your energy this week? Do you feel stretched? Or do you feel supported? Are the priorities clear for you this week? The second one to keep in mind is really absenteeism trends. So when sick leave starts to rise, it is rarely just about illness. Often it is an early sign that people are running on empty and just need a day off of being exhausted. And the third thing is really around turnover patterns. So early exits are frequently tied to energy depletion long before they become performance issues. So if you have got turnover happening faster than you would like it to be happening, then I would really encourage you to check in on the energy of your people. And one of the simplest tools is for leaders, for managers to check in and ask some genuine questions and saying something along the lines of, how is your energy right now? And those kind of questions can really open the conversation that performance reviews never will. Some organizations are now building what I call energy dashboards. So we've worked with a couple of organizations to help them build that and create the scorecards for them and their teams and how they're going to be measuring energy as part of their high performance plan and high performance culture. And they combine a bunch of different things, but some of them are survey insights, some of them are workload data, well-being indicators, and team sentiment to really identify those hotspots early on. So if you want some help with that, reach out to me. I'll put the link in the notes, but reach out and we can talk about that. And I think that when we're talking about energy, when we're talking about, energy scoreboards, this is where the leadership maturity really comes in, because once you see the data on energy, you have to be willing to act on it. So it's no good having the data and saying, oh yeah, well, so-and-so just had a bad day or a bad week. Going, okay, these are my people. This is my responsibility. How can I support my team to really build or recharge their energy? So I did want to share some of the shifts that I think are required in this day and age. Make no mistake, 2026 is a big year for leadership. It was It is. I'm recording this. It is the year of the fire horse in it's a Lunar New Year. There's lots of, really cool energy happening at the moment. And I think some of the shifts that are required is what needs to happen right now in 2026. So we have to stop equating productivity with exhaustion. And for years, high output has often been celebrated without questioning the cost. I did share in one of my newsletters recently that I hit burnout at age 26. I was an incredibly high performer. Was working way too many hours, which is another conversation for another day, but hit burnout before I kind of even really knew what was coming. And you would think I would learn the lesson, but no, I did it in my 20s, I did it in my 30s, and had a little brief burnout stint, not last year, but the year before. So when was that? 2024. So it does happen. And it's because, we celebrate output, we celebrate results. You can see behind me, I love winning. I love winning things. That's a byproduct of being an ex-ballet dancer, as we like to really do our best effort and incredibly disciplined. But the modern workplace is no longer the place for that. And really, it's all around sustainability. So sustainable performance is absolutely the competitive edge. And when leaders start measuring energy alongside output, these things change. Conversations, they become more human. Strategy is really around how do we make that realistic, not just kind of an idea in 5 years' time, but how do we turn it into a reality? And teams feel permission to operate at their best, not just their busiest. And this doesn't mean that people are lowering standards. It doesn't mean that leaders are getting lax. It absolutely doesn't mean that at all. It means, how can we build systems where performance can last and energy can endure? Because you cannot build a high performing team. You cannot build high performance when your tank is empty. When your team's tank is empty, you just can't. Like that's a pipe dream. So I wanted to leave you with a bit of a thought-provoking question today, and it is all around, if you looked at your organization right now, are you measuring what people produce, or are you also paying attention to how they feel while producing it? I was having a conversation with a friend just recently, and we were talking about how AI is going to be incredibly disruptive in terms of identity. So if someone's entire workplace identity is tied to their out of work identity, and all of that is around output, we're going to need to shift and go, hang on, who are you without the results from an output perspective? So that does tell you what you have achieved, whereas energy tells you whether or not it is going to be sustainable. And the world, it's moving fast. It is moving very, very quickly. And I think sustainability is no longer optional. What we need to be seeing is really strong leadership in that way. I really hope you've enjoyed this segment, this piece, this podcast on leadership, this conversation. If you would like to keep having this conversation, please reach out to me or the team, ali@madeformore.com.au. If you would like some resources on this, head over to madeformore.com.au/resources to find some tools to help you with energy there. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for listening to the Made for More podcast. Share it with your friends, give it a like. We're always open to feedback. And of course, if there's anything that you want to hear about, any questions, just let me know, and we will do an episode on that as well. Until next time, eat the frog, get the worm, be the bird, and start thinking about your energy as the most important KPI there is. Bye for now.